Just a couple housekeeping things. I'm Adrienne Allen. I'm an Energy Committee member and on the Board of Health, and we are here from the Energy Committee to talk to you about electrifying your home and show you some demos and share with you some rebates from Belmont Light to help make this more affordable. We're going to take questions at the end. I'm going to just say if you want to chat some in so we can keep track as we go along, that would be really helpful. And we'll hopefully make this interactive and dynamic as we go. So I'm going to start off and try to share my screen with our climate initiatives for Belmont. This is going to be given at town meeting this year, and then talk a little bit about the health benefits, and then we'll hop right into the demos. And let me see if I can get this into speaker mode, which I don't use slides this way that often. Well, that's worse. Here we go. Can you guys see, someone from the Energy Committee, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can. It looks good.
Okay, great. Okay, so what's our history and stated goals? In 2009, town meeting adopted a climate action plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% below 2007 levels by 2015. In 2019, the town adopted the Climate Action Roadmap for Strategic Electrification. And what that roadmap is our plan or map to get us to this goal. And in 2020, Massachusetts committed to zero net energy buildings by 2050, which is an 85% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions below the 1990 levels. So in Belmont, we've done some work, progress, but not enough. And you can see where we need to go and where the red line is our trajectory right now. And where are our CO2 emissions coming from? A lot of it is how we heat our homes. So 43% comes from oil and natural gas heating. And as we'll talk about today, natural gas is not so natural and has some pretty bad side effects outside of climate change. And so we are encouraging electrification to meet our emission goals and for health benefits. Gasoline vehicles is the next biggest area, and you're going to hear a bit about electric cars, and then AC and lighting is the other piece. So what's our climate action roadmap? What are our goals? We want to electrify our transportation and heating, and we want to make Belmont's electricity 100% carbon free, which is really wonderful. And we're really advanced with our light company in the fact that we're doing this. Electricity is the only form of energy that can be produced entirely from renewables, carbon-free sources, solar, wind, and hydro. And Belmont Light has made such a great commitment to get there and has been really striving to hit this 100% carbon-free, and we can get an update on where they are right now. High efficiency electric heating is installed and working in Belmont today. You're going to see a demo of one today. I have one in my house, and I can attest to how wonderful they are. The Heat Smart Belmont program was an initiative that really moved this forward. Heat pumps are 200% more efficient than other types of heating. They move heat from outside to inside, and it requires less energy. And I'm not going to get into the science behind this, but you can take a look at it, and those smarter than I will explain to you why this is so much more efficient. Gas versus electric heat has much less CO2 emissions. And as the grid gets cleaner, so does our electric heat. So given the fact that Belmont Light will be having clean energy, it really makes sense to switch over to this highly efficient, highly clean electric heat. And so, electric homes are comparable to costs and release far fewer greenhouse gases versus gas home. And so, I think the startup cost is a big question in making the switch. Can people afford to do this? And we're excited to hear from Belmont Light about the rebates to kind of get that going, because once they're in, really, the costs are beneficial to electric. And the other thing is our electric company is owned by the town, and so those dollars come back to our town and benefit the town. So it's something to consider. This is not a private company, it's our own town company, and we're keeping the dollars in our town, which is more and more important these days. Okay, so what's our progress on fossil-free new construction? That was a big item in the new years. Brookline and Arlington had passed a home rule petition to allow them to regulate energy infrastructure, new constructions, and major innovations. And 18 Massachusetts communities and towns were contemplating these mandates. There are 40 California cities and towns requiring or encouraging electrification and new construction. And I'm not going to get too much into this now. If you want to hear more, you're going to go on town meeting, but we're going to be presenting at town meeting an article about how our buildings can reach our mission goals. So Belmont must do more. Buildings are a big source of fossil fuel emissions, as I mentioned before, and each new building using fossil fuel makes it harder to reach our goal. If we put in a natural gas furnace now, that's there for 30 years. So as we think about new construction, this is really our opportunity to make big strides in hitting our goals. How feasible is it? High efficiency electric alternatives are great, they exist. They are able to replace fossil fuel infrastructure to a similar cost. And once they're in, there's significant savings. It strengthens Belmont Light, it saves all of the ratepayers' money, and it keeps the money within the town. Okay, so the law of holes, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging. And one would argue that we're in quite a hole right now with our carbon emissions worldwide. I'm going to shift over. Actually, let me go to this one, the new analysis. So all electric single family homes are already cheaper to build in Boston today. So this is a cost piece. And I think, Marty and James can take questions on this right now. And so, we're really hoping to change the conversation and to shift the framework of what people have in their dialogue when they're thinking about either building a new home or replacing furnaces, replacing water heaters, even replacing your stove or your car. We want you to feel comfortable with electric and understand its benefits and pros and cons. And so this is a slide of percentage of total energy use by resource type. And we can share these slides actually. We'll post these slides actually to our webpage afterwards. And again, they'll be presented on town meeting and you can dig into it a little bit further. So what's our New England energy mix right now? It's 40% natural gas, 25% nuclear, 19% hydro. Wind, solar, and wood refuse is a 9.4, and local hydro is 7.4%. Belmont Light is doing better than that, and 34% right now is renewable energy, 8% wind, and 6.7% hydro. So we're at 50% renewable, which is quite remarkable. And, it really speaks to, as you electrify your home, you are truly burning more clean. You are clean and you're not emitting carbon into the atmosphere. Here's a slide on a state renewable portfolio standards. And so Maine is up here on the top, followed by Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. Here's an electrification scenario comparison. And, just thinking about the areas where you can electrify your house, when we think about heating, you can think about your duct zones and mini splits, and this will also cool your house. We could look at a hybrid electric pump water heater, and for cooking, electric induction cooktop stoves, which cook really fast and don't leak natural gas into your house. So one question that comes up is, can Belmont's grid handle increased electrification? I know that's on everyone's mind, especially after things that, things you hear in the media about, can the grid handle this increased load? So Belmont Lights is a summer peaking utility. Winter peak is much less, and the substation has capacity. So currently we have enough capacity to spare for 50% of all homes to switch to electric heat pumps. And, I think with the federal bill, hopefully being passed or being proposed, we're going to have more redundancy in all of our grids. But even without that, starting today, we have capacity for 50% of our homes to switch to heat pumps, which is quite remarkable and exciting. Sorry, I'm struggling a little bit with my Google Slides. I think, all right, let's see here. And that might be my last one. So I'm going to switch over briefly. So I've talked pretty quickly because I want to get to the demos about what our climate plan is. I just want to talk because I'm a physician and I want to talk a little bit about the health effects. And I see if you can see this because I'm switching slides. Can you see Marty and James? Can you guys see the health?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So we're talked about climate change, and that is a major threat, and that is our main goal. The one thing I want to talk about now is burning fossil fuels today kills people. And it sounds pretty radical, and it sounded radical coming out of my mouth as I started doing this work. I'm a primary care internal medicine physician and a medical director of quality and safety for North Shore Physicians Group. And every day I treat patients with heart disease, lung disease, premature births, or inflammation. The burning of fossil fuels, the burning of any fuel emits chemicals that leads to increased heart attack, strokes, emissions for lung disease, and premature birth. And so while our main goals are to prevent climate change, the stopping of any type of burning of these fuels will have immediate health benefits today. So as you burn less, as we electrify more, we have immediate health benefits. One area that I never really thought about is our gas stove. So gas burners release combustion pollutants directly into your house. They also increase nitrogen dioxide to levels that increase the standard for outdoor air. And that exacerbates asthma. Children living in a home with a gas stove have a 42% increase of asthma. Gas furnaces and water heater also vent these combustion chemicals through the chimney and contribute to our air pollution today. And so this is an imperative, and it will improve our health today as we electrify more. One added concern about gas is the fracked gas mixture. So, the fracked gas contains other chemicals that natural gas didn't have. Arguably, it has more methane, more volatile organic compounds, including benzene. It's been detected from fracked gas, which is a carcinogen, and no safe levels have been found. There's also toluene and xylene. In addition, there's particulate matter. So I think, if there's one thing we can do today when we're thinking about replacing stoves or furnaces, trying to get away from natural gas, it's not so natural. One fabulous resource for this is the American Lung Association. They actually have a rating. It just came out for Earth Day, is, state of the air for outdoor air, but they also have a wonderful guide about indoor air quality. And I have the link here, and we'll make sure we post these slides. This is a bit dramatic, but this is the Merrimack Gas Valley explosion. So we also forget that electrification is a lot safer. We don't have the risks of these explosions. And, besides the other health benefits, it's something to consider. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand this over now, I believe, to Roger, who's going to talk about, do a demo for us. So give us a minute to get us set up, and I think we'll go. And maybe I can.
Do I have to go share screen?
I don't think you have to share your screen. I'm just wondering if, for those who are not familiar with Zoom, you might want to switch it to speaker view if you haven't already, so that you don't see the rest of us and you can see the demo a little more clearly. How you do that is in the upper right-hand corner, there's a view button with a number of little dots. Just click on that and switch to speaker view. Okay. All right, go for it.
Okay, Andrea, can you see my screen?
You know what? I think under Roberta is the one. You might want to turn off your other. Roger, what I can see is, I can see your induction stove under your Roberta, but
yeah.
So I wonder if you want to turn the audio on for Roberta, if you can.
Okay.
And turn it off on your other. It's connecting.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let me turn off this one.
Okay.
No. Okay.
Roger, did you turn on video? Start video, lower left?
He's under Roberta for his video.
Yeah, the video is on.
It's
So you
on
can see it
Roberta.
you can see it in on my little thumbnail.
How about now? Can everyone see that? I pinned you. Does that work or no?
Okay, maybe that's it. Okay, now I have the sound on.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, now I just need to, oh, okay. I think we see it now.
You do.
Okay, now okay, so I just need to talk, I think, and then the video will come on. Is that right? Oh, okay, can you see my stove?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, so about 2 years ago, our gas stove started to give us a little bit of trouble. And rather than investing in having somebody come and look at it and fix it, we decided to look into buying an induction stove. So this is the stove that we bought 2 years ago. And and this is an induction stove. So what's an induction stove? Well, an induction stove uses a electric current to create an alternating magnetic field, and that magnetic field heats up the metal in the pot. So the stove itself is not heating. And we actually use something that uses this induction stove technology already, and that is the recharging your electric toothbrush uses an induction system very similar to what the stove is using. So it's not very strange or new or alien. So because it's the cooking vessel that's heating and not the stove, it makes induction stoves extremely safe. So I'm going to turn on, these are called hobs. And there are, it's just like your a traditional electric stove, and then it has a little area that shows you where you put your pot in order to heat it. So there's one here and one here. There's a very large one over here and a really small one for simmering back in the corner here. So if I turn on this hob over here, and this turns it up to full power, and I put my hand on it, it doesn't turn on. That flashing light there means that it's not on. So if I take a pot of water and I put it on, now it's on. Now it's heating, and I can hear a little hum that tells me that it's on. And if my water is heated and I want to use it and I take it away and I forget to turn the stove off, the stove turns itself off. If there's no pot on here, there's no heating. So the only thing that's heating is the bottom of the pot, not this. If you heat a pot of water up on this, the stove, the ceramic top of the stove will get hot because there's conduction between the heat of the pot and the stove. So in order, the pots, to use a pot on an induction stove, they have to be magnetic. And the way you tell if a pot is magnetic is you pick up your pot and you put a magnet on it. And if the magnet sticks to it, then it's magnetic. So most of the pots in our house were magnetic. A couple of them weren't and had to be replaced. These are all magnetic pots. This is a stainless steel pot that's magnetic. This is a cast iron pot with an enamel coating on it. This is a regular cast iron pot. All of these were. This is a steel pot, magnetic. Aluminum. And because these stoves don't use any combustion, that they're not burning gas in the house, as Adrian already said, that the gas stoves are releasing things other than heat into the house, like carbon monoxide and small particles. So this makes the air in the house much healthier. It heats extremely fast. So an induction stove heats water about 40% faster than a electric stove or a gas stove. the temperature can be controlled very precisely. So by hitting this little minus here, I can turn it down one thing at a time. Or if I want to turn it down quickly, I can just hit it like that and it automatically goes down really quickly. And the other part that's really nice is the ceramic top is smooth and it's really easy to clean. So all in all, this is, I think, is an improvement on a gas stove. And I know a lot of people have misgivings about giving up their gas stoves. And I can just tell you that we would never go back to gas, that this is better than a gas stove. So I'll take any questions if you have them.
We had a question on which type, what's the manufacturer of yours?
Well, this is a GE profile, but my understanding is that GE sold that name to Haier, which I think is a Korean company. So I'm not sure. I think Haier is the actual manufacturer of it, but the label on it says GE profile. It was $2,500 at Home Depot. So the price of them ranged, when I was researching it, ranged from about $975 up to $6,000.
Roger, does it need 220?
Needs 240, yes.
240.
Yeah, I should have said that, yeah. So two things are magnetic pots and 240 outlet, and that's about it.
So we have
I should also say that the oven is a regular electric convection oven. So the induction part of it only refers to the stovetop.
So we have two questions related to that. Well, let me go to the one about the oven, since you mentioned the oven. Can you describe more of the oven? Is it more of a regular oven, and can you broil in it?
Yeah, you can broil in it, you can bake in it, yes.
Okay. And then there's a question, when the stove is heating, is the magnetic field strong enough to affect a mechanical watch?
I don't think so, but I don't know because I don't have a mechanical watch. So I've never heard that. In reading the kind of discussions about this, I've never heard of anybody having anything that they're wearing affected by the magnetic field. I think you'd have to probably be right on top of it in order for it to have an effect.
And then we have a question on any idea of the sense of kilowatt per hour of use.
I have not tested it, but I haven't noticed a change in my electric bill. So I don't think it's a huge amount.
Do you have a sense of how quickly it boils water? We know you said it's faster than gas, but how quickly?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is a little warm already, so hang on. I'll put some cold water in it.
We'll do a time trial here. Consumer Reports this month has ratings of induction stoves as well, I was telling the group. So you might want to take a look at that. Okay, so what time is it? 7:20. 7:25. Start a timer. Any other questions about
as we watch this pot boil?
Yeah, I'll watch pot and boils.
But it's going to be based on how full you make the pot. But I think it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to boil a pot of water for my coffee in the morning.
Okay.
And when I've read articles about it, it says it's about 40% faster than a gas stove.
Great.
For boiling water. And I can hear it sort of starting to heat up. There's probably a cup and a half of water in there now, and it's starting to kind of make noise.
How long have they been around, induction stoves?
I think since the 80s, and I think they're
Really?
much more popular in Europe than they are here. They just have never caught on here. Yeah, the induction process was discovered in the 19th century by Faraday, I think. Okay, there it goes. So
you said some of them cost $6,000. What was so special about those?
It's just like gas stoves. They start to look like these huge industrial things.
Okay.
I mean, it's a pretty accepted technology now. I mean, it's not like something new on the horizon.
All right. This
Okay.
is great. Do we have any
Great.
other questions? If not, we're going to move on
I
to
think that needs special vessels, right? Induction vessels, like it's not every, like it has to be special vessels to be used on the induction stuff.
Special what?
Vessel, like
Vessel.
They have to
Right.
be magnetic. That's the
That-
only thing they need to be is magnetic. And many pots are already magnetic. We just don't know it because it doesn't make any difference on a gas stove. But anything cast iron, a lot of stainless steel. Stainless steel has a lot of different mixtures of metals in it. So one of the pots that we had, which was stainless steel, did not work. This one does work. And then all of our enamel coated cast iron pots work great. So yeah, you can't use certain pots. You can't use aluminum. You can't use copper, and you can use a copper pot if it has a bottom on it that's stainless steel that's magnetic, which some copper pots do, and some aluminum pots do also. So when I was looking for pots, I took my magnet into Target and walked around and figured out which pots were magnetic, and I didn't get thrown out or looked at funny or anything.
We have a couple more questions. How do you get a 240 outlet?
You get call an electrician. You just run it from your panel, and it's a thicker wire, and it has a bigger circuit breaker.
And we have a comment that if you already have an electric range, it's what you already use for a regular electric stove. And then we have a question: how durable is the cooking surface?
Well, it's ceramic. It's a hard kind of ceramic. I've had it for 2 years and did not have a problem. I think if you drop like a heavy cast iron pot on it, I think it might crack. So, you just need to be a little bit careful with it, but it hasn't been a problem for us.
Do the pots get hotter?
I don't know. I don't know how to, I certainly wouldn't touch them. So what you see with the little red light on down here, that says that the surface here has heated up because the pot has boiled on it. So it's warning you that it's hot, but it's not, if I left my hand on it a while, it would probably hurt, but just touching it like that, it's fine. And the other interesting thing you can do is you can put a paper towel on it like that, or a piece of paper, and turn it on, and works fine. So, if you didn't want to be messy, you could kind of cover your stove with paper towels. The other thing that's interesting about it is because only the area right under the pot is hot. If you spill food around here, like this is not hot, like, now it's starting to get warm over here. So if you spill food on here, it doesn't burn onto the surface, and it's easy to just wipe up. It's pretty cool, I think.
Some have suggested using towels if you don't want to scratch it. How's your cast iron on it? Does it scratch your surface?
The front burner that we use the most over here is a bit scratched, and it's probably because we use cast iron on it. I haven't tried buying anything to clean it with, so I don't know if you can get that off, but it's definitely a little dulled on the burner that we've been using the most.
This is great.
Okay.
I think we'll move on to James, but if there are more questions, just type them in and we'll come back to it, or feedback. I love that if people have these, it's great that you're texting it in. It's super to hear it. So
yeah, and also if if you're vaccinated and you really wanted to come over and take a look at it, I'd be happy to show it.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
All right, I think we're going to switch over to James. And I think.
All right.
Go ahead.
To me now? Yeah. I haven't zoomed from my phone much before. Great. Well, thanks, Roger. That was very cool. So I'm going to say a bit about heat pumps that Adrian mentioned already. Heating is the biggest source of emissions in our home. That's what we're burning the most fossil fuels to do in this climate. And the efficient way to heat with electricity is to use something called a heat pump, which, as the name sort of implies, moves heat around. It's basically, a heat pump is an air conditioner that can go in both directions. So in the summer, it moves heat out of your house to cool your house down, and then in the winter, in the heating season, it can take heat from the outside air and bring it into your house to warm it up. That's the point people find a little counterintuitive, the idea that there's heat in the outside air in the winter to be had. But basically, the heat pump pumps a refrigerant through a cycle, and it expands and gets very cold, and so it can draw heat from even what feels like cold air to bring heat into your house. And as Adrienne said, it's a very efficient process. If you think of burning gas being maybe 90% efficient in the sense that you turn 90% of the energy in the gas into heat, and an electric, resistance baseboard heater being 100%, in that all of the electricity energy is turned into heat. And with a heat pump, it's 200 to 400% efficient, which sounds sort of like magic, but it's really just that for every unit of electrical energy you use to run it, you can bring in 2 to 4 units of heat into your house. So that's the reason why it's such an efficient way to go, and why it can help cut emissions so much. So I'll just, mine's not going right at the moment, so I will turn the temperature up a bit to kick it in. On the thermostat here. So there's 2 ways to go with heat pumps. Basically, you can have ducted or ductless versions. If you have pre-existing ductwork in your house, then you can often tie a heat pump into it and just use that. So that was our situation. We added or about a year ago, we replaced an old gas furnace and an old air conditioner that were both getting up in years with a ducted heat pump. So it's just tying into the same ducts that we used to use for our gas furnace and our air conditioning. So as I said, I will give it a second to get going. So there's not a whole lot to see inside my house because it's using the existing ductwork that looks much like any other thing, but there it's starting to kick in. The outdoor unit looks very much like an air conditioner condenser unit. So here it started going here. I should trim back some of those bushes a little bit. As going on, you may be able to hear it over the noise of the rain, but it's pretty quiet most of the time. As is now, this is going. Oops. And so it's getting nice and toasty in here. So had it about a year. So through cooling and heating seasons, did a great job cooling the house in the summer, and also did a great job keeping us warm through this past winter, even on the coldest days where it was getting down 4 degrees or so Fahrenheit in the early mornings. The heat pump was still working away and keeping the house warm for, as Adrienne said, for much less emissions. I mean, even if we just go from the current New England grid averages, it would be around half the emissions. And as she said, the grid's getting cleaner, and Belmont Light in particular is choosing to get green energy. So we've been very pleased with our central ducted unit. As I said, there's not really a one-size-fits-all solution for this. Depending on how your house is configured, you may go different ways, and we'll. And Marty has the other kind of setup, which is ductless units, where you have individual air handlers in different rooms, which often makes more sense if you don't already have existing ductwork in an existing house. So Adrienne, I could throw over to Marty to show some of his
units.
We
can. We actually had a couple questions for you, and then we'll show Marty
in the chat here.
Yeah. So how old is your home, and what kind of insulation do you have?
The home is from 1904, and we have a variety of things, a lot of blown cellulose in the attic from some, partly from mass save things over the last few years, and fiberglass bats in the walls. So I would say it's we've done a lot of, we've done things like have the mass save audit, but so it's not a poorly insulated house, but it's certainly far from being a super insulated house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go to Marty then. There's a number of questions about heat pumps in general. So let's show Marty's other type, and then we'll both of you handle these questions back and forth.
Okay, sure. Can you see my image? Okay. Hi, I'm Marty Bittner, also on the Energy Committee. And as James said, I also have heat pumps. That's my exclusive heating system in my home. And right behind me up top there is what is called a mini split or a ductless system. So whereas James is using the existing ductwork in his house, in my case, we replaced our gas furnace and radiators with five of these units you see behind me. So the outside part is essentially the same. So like James showed, we also have an outdoor unit that does the actual heat exchange, and it transfers the heat through the system behind me. And it's on right now. And go up a little closer. It's really quiet. You hardly ever hear it, and you generally just let it run all day. It's sort of sucking heat in or air in up through the top, and then it blows air out through these vents down here. One nice thing about these ductless units is, as I said, we've got 5 of these spread around our house, and that does all our heating and cooling. And each one of these can act like its own zone. And so I can set the temperature that I want in, particular rooms where I have these. And so we basically have 5 zones, one for each of these mini split units in our house, which is, is pretty nice, because if we're congregating in one room or 2, we can just, adjust the temperature as we see fit. The other thing is I can control these with my smartphone. So I can, change the temperature, turn them off and on. And that's for these units called the Sensibo, which is, maybe we'll talk about later in the rebate section, but it's just this little doodad. And so that sends a signal to the mini split to, turn the temperature up or down or turn it off and on. And again, all through my smartphone. So pretty convenient. And with that, I guess we could.
You want to do questions? So I have a question for both of you related. Did you remove your gas furnace, and can they be used with existing radiators?
Yeah, we removed our gas furnace for these, and we didn't attempt to reuse the radiators, but these mini splits act on their own. So these are not going to interface with radiators generally. And I'm not aware of systems that can, interface with existing radiators. But I will say that the really nice thing in our case was when we made the switch, we got rid of all our old radiators, and that gave us back a lot of floor space. And so our dining room is a little bit more expansive now because the radiator, the big hunk of metal, is not blocking up the way, right? So it's
great. Has anyone noticed odors? Someone has heard that there are odors. I have a mini split. I have not. Have you guys ever noticed any odors?
So with my central system, I haven't noticed any, and actually noticed we have to dust less often. And I don't know, we might just be using a slightly better grade of filter than we had been on our old gas one. I don't, or maybe that's just been our anecdotal thing, is the house isn't as dusty as it used to be, it seems. With the question about radiators, the challenge with heat pumps are generally not set up to tie into water hydronic systems, because the water in existing radiators has to be hotter than heat pumps can get it. So this is yeah, when we're saying ducting, we're talking more forced air ducting, was the question on that. And there was also a question I see in the chat that it's great at keeping the house warm, but not great at warming it up from cold. How do you approach this? So that is, yeah, that is something that it's not like firing up from like a full blast gas furnace. So they tend to be used differently in terms of just leaving it, set it and forget it, leave it at one temperature. Like when I had gas, I used to set it way down and cold at night and then, you know, fire it all up first thing in the morning. Whereas now with the heat pump, at least we're just leaving it at sort of 68 degrees all the time. So it in the middle of the night, the house isn't getting colder, so it doesn't need to have a big ramp up in the morning to try and deal with that. So yeah, they're not as great for ramping a temperature up from cold, but we run it so we don't very often have to do that unless you're leaving town for a while or something.
But you should mention that they're rated to very low temperatures. I don't know, Marty, if you're going to talk about that.
All right, I was just going to say something about the, you know, the mildew smell and things like that, and just show inside of here. So I just popped this open. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a couple filters inside of here. And so really the only maintenance you need to do is, and maybe like once a month or once every few months, you know, you can take these filters, they pop right out. So you can take this out and then you can just run a vacuum cleaner over it and clean all the dust out. And that helps it, you know, keep running efficiently. And like James said, this actually, since there's flowing a lot of air through your house in here, it kind of removes dust out of the air in the house, which is, you know, a kind of nice side effect of all this. And then yeah, as far as the low temperatures too, right? They're still 100% efficient down to, you know, 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and they still work, you know, they'll work down to minus 15 degrees. And so there's really no trouble keeping up with the heating.
That's great. Someone's asking about who can advise on heat pumps. Are we having a campaign now still, James? And what kind of system works best? There are questions about if, you know, you need a split for each room, or if you can do ductless. How does that work? Who can help evaluate that kind of question?
Yeah, I mean, installers will make recommendations, but it's and certainly a good idea to get opinions from a couple of different installers and who may propose different options. I don't know if Ben is on right now from Belmont Light, but
I'll go in. Yeah, I'll go into the details of that later.
And the clean comfort thing?
Yep. Yeah. Yes, I will.
Yeah. So there's so Belmont Light is has a new program to help with that specific question about advice on sort of navigating the process and interpreting what installers would suggest and so on. There's also an organization that I'm involved with called the Heat Smart Alliance. That's sort of a bunch of alumni of Heat Smart programs that has a similar kind of mission. So you could check out that group as well. But right here in town, Belmont Light is doing something about that, which Ben will talk about in a bit, I gather.
Great. There was a question about, can you run this with a radiator? I can take that because I have a mini split and I got it for cooling. Actually, I didn't even, before I joined the energy committee, I didn't even realize it was an efficient way to heat. And after joining the committee, I learned. And so I actually run them as soon as it starts getting cold. And my radiator, it's not gauged, like my house wasn't set up for heating. So we use a radiator as a backup, but I try to use the mini splits as much as possible in this house.
Yeah, and that one thing to say about that too, Adrian, is you know, for people thinking about you know, whether you want to install the heat pumps mainly for heating or for both heating and cooling, you know, and especially if you're doing new construction or a big renovation, a heat pump system costs a little bit more than a traditional gas furnace, for example. But if you're using it for heating and cooling, the cost kind of amortizes over both, making the cost of a heat pump system, you know, somewhat comparable to a separate cooling system and a separate heating system. And so that's that's one thing that's nice about the heat pumps is that they do both heating and cooling. And so it's sort of a 2-for-1 deal on that front.
I think we've come to the end of our questions for now. Certainly, if you have more, put them in the chat, and then we're gonna go to our next.
Adrian,
go
actually, like just interject one thing.
Yeah.
Belmont Light will be having a specific air source heat pump 101 event on May 26th at 6:30. We're going to announce the full details of that shortly, but we will be having that with our technical partner. And they'll go through the details about the heat pump technology, and will be available for more detailed questions in terms of how to run a heat pump, what involves in looking at contractors, and how they size them, what the difference is between a ducted and ductless. So they'll go into those more details if anyone wants to attend that event. So
Ben, can you put, if you have anything in the chat, if you have anything about it, even if it's just a date?
Yep, will do.
Wonderful. And any links. Okay, I think we'll go on to our next presentation, which is Klaus, and I believe that's electric vehicles.
I think Klaus is actually going to talk about solar hot water heater.
Oh, solar hot water heater. Sorry, that's my mistake. Yep. And look, yours too.
Yeah. And, so is Klaus actually here?
I don't think so. You're gonna do. Yep.
Well, I can talk about. So I'll talk about how we heat our water. So we've talked about heat pump for heating your house. So we actually use a heat pump hot water heater. And so the original impetus of this in our case was that we did a renovation, and we were reorienting our living room. And so, it was advantageous to get rid of our chimney. And so the only thing at the time that we had venting through our chimney was our natural gas water heater. And so we decided to switch to electric, and that enabled us to no longer need a chimney because we have, we're not burning anything in our house anymore that we need to vent out the chimney. So that was kind of nice. And so behind me is our hot water heater. And the first thing you notice is that it's pretty huge. So I'm about 6 feet tall, and the heat pump hot water heater is taller than I am. So I'd say it's about 6.5 feet tall. And in our case, this is an 80-gallon unit. So so it holds 80 gallons of water. And I've seen sort of two variants. One is holds maybe like 40 or 50 gallons, and this is on the larger side. And the reason for us to get a larger unit is that there's 4 people who live in our house. And so, we don't use a ton of water, but, if we have guests or something, we'll, go through showers and things like that. So we want to have enough hot water as a repository to be able to accommodate all the hot water use in the house. And heat pump, when you use a heat pump to heat the water, it's a little bit of a slower process compared to resistance heating or even a natural gas hot water heater. And so by having 80 gallons in this tank, that allows it to heat at a more gradual pace. And because you're only going through I don't know how many gallons of water a day, 10, 20 gallons. But if you have 80 gallons in there, you can have and I could flip this around. Okay, so just show you the actual unit itself. And so the idea is here, like down at the bottom, that's where the cold water comes in. So the cold water comes in at the bottom. And so the bottom water in the unit is colder than up at the top. So there's a temperature gradient. And this is the pipe that picks off the hot water from the top of the unit. And so, hot water at the top, colder water down at the bottom. And the unit's on right now. So I'll stop talking for a second and you can hear how loud it is. It's down in our basement, and we don't have a finished basement, but we can't hear this upstairs. So it's, it's relatively quiet. just kind of a little hum buzz. And so it's the way this works is it's same idea. It's exchanging heat with the air. So it's actually, sucking in air through the top of the unit and extracting the heat out of the air in the basement. And then this little fan here is where it's spitting out. This air is quite cold coming out of here. And so it's sort of stealing heat from the air that's in the basement. And so what that means is it cools down our basement a little bit. And that's kind of a nice feature in August. And in February, it's tolerable, but it makes the basement a little bit colder. The other thing it does is it's condensing water out. And so a side benefit of using this type of hot water heater is that it dehumidifies the basement just naturally through the process of how a heat pump works. And so one requirement, if you have one of these, is that you have to have a place to dump the water. So in our case, we have a little utility sink over here. You can see this pipe, that's where the water gets dumped out that condenses from the air. So it's pretty nice. I mean, it's super efficient. I think we use about two or 3 kilowatt hours a day to do all our hot water heating, and that's, in terms of cost, maybe that's 40 or 50 cents. And so it's pretty cheap. And then the other thing is it has different modes. And so right now it's on a heat pump mode, but you can switch this to high demand mode, for example. You can see that. So if you had a bunch of visitors and you needed the water to heat up more quickly, then this will switch it to just electric resistance heating. And so, it will stop using the heat pump, and I can switch it to electric mode. And in a second, you should hear it went quiet because the heat pump now turned off. And now this mode just uses direct resistance heating, which is less efficient, but can heat the water up a little faster. And so it's flexible in that way. Yeah, and I think that's about it, but happy to answer any questions about it.
Yeah, so Marty, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
So how big is the tank?
Dimensionally?
Well, no, what gallon wise?
This holds 80 gallons.
Okay. And I was just thinking, it seems like a good deal to cool off the basement and dehumidify the basement in the summer. How cold does it get? How much colder does it get the basement in the winter if you have a room down there that you use?
Yeah, I've never measured. I've never done like a baseline test to say for sure, but
yeah,
I'd say in February, I'd say the temperature down here is probably like 55 degrees or something like that. And and that's, we're not trying to heat our downstairs because it's unfinished. So the other thing is, I mean, of course, we'd like if people switch to heat pumps and everything, but if you do have a gas furnace that's kicking off heat in the basement, then the heat pump will kind of swallow up that excess heat that's getting kicked off by your radiator, which is can be kind of nice. I mean, nicer if you have a heat pump, but
Is the I know you said there was just an electric resistance option. Is that a high efficiency? Is that a high efficiency option? I mean, relatively speaking.
That's just a regular sort of dumb old resistance heater inside the water, just running current through a wire, basically.
Right,
So
but I mean, some water heaters are more efficient than others, and I just was wondering if this was rated fairly high.
I think that's just like 100% efficient, right? In the same way that like heating from, like radiant heating is. So the heat pump is way more efficient than the resistance heating. And I haven't done like a baseline test of that, but because I don't use the resistance heating much. And I guess that's worth saying is that I run this in the heat pump mode all the time, even in February. And so even though it cools the basement off, I mean, there's still enough heat in the surrounding air in my basement for the heat pump to steal the heat and put it in the water to the point where it's not like I have to switch over to the resistance mode in the winter or something like that.
And so you said So it sounds like you just need an open space with access to a sink so that the water can be, condensed into the sink.
Yeah, and I didn't emphasize that enough, but I think you need, maybe I want to say like 700 square feet or something on that order of open space. And so you can't hide this thing sort of in a utility closet because, since it's taking the heat out of the air, if you have it in a real tiny closet, it's going to pretty quickly cool that closet down to the point where it becomes not very efficient to use a heat pump, right? Because there's not enough heat in that air. So it's better if you have just a big open basement area.
Thank you.
Yep.
We had a question about if you need to upgrade your electrical system, and Daryl says no. Marty, did you need to upgrade your electrical?
No, it's it's only like a 30 amp circuit or something like that. So it's not even as heavy duty as your oven. So generally running, a 30 amp circuit is not a huge deal.
If the question was more about for heat pumps as well, for those, some people in town who only had 100 amp service, in that case, you probably needed to upgrade to 200 amp, but that's more at the level of the heat pumps where you've got a bigger draw.
Will anybody be talking about a tankless water heating, or is that not part of this program?
I believe those are gas, so I think it's not part of this program. Is there an electric tankless?
I don't think it's gas. I don't know.
There's both.
Get electric also for tankless. So there's electric or gas. But the tankless water heater for electric does require a pretty big circuit. I want to say, 50, 60 amps, something out of that order to be able to keep up. And I think I saw somebody in the chat asked a question about why not put the heat exchanger outside for the heat pump. These things come sort of all bundled together, right? Like the heat pump itself is this top part, right? The water heater is from here down, and this whole top thing is the heat pump. And so if you wanted to have, if you were bothered by cooling down your basement and you wanted to, do that outside, you'd have to, I'm not even sure that they make such things, but it would certainly be more expensive because it would be kind of akin to the heat pump heating system where you have the outdoor condenser hooked into the inside unit. So I feel like that would be kind of cost prohibitive and not especially that necessary because it cools the basement down a little bit, but it's not overwhelmingly, awful. That's what I'd say.
Hey, Marty.
I'm sorry.
Marty, can you just say lifespan durability of these systems versus gas heaters for water heaters?
I think that, the heat pump should last longer than the tank itself. So I think that comes down to basically the life of the tank, which is similar to gas water heater tank in that sense.
Can I ask a question about heating and cooling with a heat pump? How is the relative cost with a gas furnace or a boiler, through the year?
Yeah, so in my experience, and it seems like with current gas prices that they're fairly comparable. That probably the operating cost for the heat pump was maybe 20% more, but then my servicing for what I used to have for servicing the gas furnace was a few $100s more per year than for the heat pump. So that cancels out to some extent. So right now with current prices, it's the operating cost is slightly higher for heat pumps, but they're in the same kind of ballpark basically. Compared to gas, compared to oil, it's more favorable. The other thing I should say is that's with electricity from Belmont Light, but if you have solar and you're providing some of your own electricity, then it becomes that much more, that tips the balance and makes it cheaper than gas.
Is the heat pump solely outside, or is there an inside unit that needs to be vented to the outside?
There's no venting because there's no like combustion products or anything. So so it's just air moving around. I think if I'm speaking right about that.
Good. Thank you.
Phil has a question.
Yes, I posted in the chat. And first, thank you very much for doing this presentation. It's just fantastic. So if the heat pump hybrid hot water heater is taking too much heat out of the basement, could I turn off the heat pump part of the unit and just run it as a normal hot water heater?
Yeah, sure. You can do that. You can, because it's, it's got the different modes. I mean, the one I showed, the heat pump mode and the strictly electric mode, but it also has kind of an in-between mode, like an energy saver, where it tries to do sort of the smartest thing, either way. But I think you're saying if you explicitly wanted to just not cool off your basement anymore, yes, you could run it as a regular electric water heater that's not running the heat pump. And so, like I said, we run this thing in heat pump mode all year long, and we don't spend a ton of time in our basement, but it's tolerable to be down there, right? It's not overwhelmingly cold or something. But if you really were bothered by that in February, you could run it as a resistance heater during the colder months of the year, and then of course in the summer it's great because it cools and dehumidifies. And so I'd say for the bulk of the year, it's a net benefit because of the dehumidification alone, right? I think running a dehumidifier in a basement would probably be similar cost to running our heat pump. So it's almost like we're getting hot water for free.
Thank you.
I have a quick question just about how often do you have to replace them?
As the water heater or the heat?
The heat pump?
The heat pump for heating the house or for the water heater?
Both. Like what is the
Oh.
like the turnaround for like how, the efficiency of how long they last?
Figure
James?
residential units is around like a 15-year is what they're quoted, sort of a 15-year lifespan. Maybe go longer than that, but like for an air conditioner.
So it's the same. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, these are really wonderful questions.
I think somebody asked the cost, and I don't know. I'll presume that was for the heat pump water heater. So I think our unit was around $1,800. I think so. It's a little more expensive than a gas water heater. But as the folks at Belmont Light will talk about, there's rebates that help make up that difference. And so with the rebate, it wasn't much more expensive.
Great. I'm wondering if it's a good time to go to Ben and Belmont Light.
Yeah,
Are there
and
other...
we can answer more questions at the end too, so we can go to rebates.
Okay. Keep chatting in your questions as they come up, and we'll go to the rebates, and then we can come back to particulars.
Great. Actually, yep. All right. So my name is Ben Verge. I'm the energy specialist at Belmont Light. So I handle all of the residential programs, what we call demand side management. So everything on the customer side of the meter. So that would be all of our rebate programs, incentive programs. So I'm just going to go through the ones that are relevant, and actually towards the end of the presentation, actually dive into the other ones programs that we're offering. So I split this up in this slide into, there's 2 slides here. One is these are our current programs that we're offering for 2020, which the Appliance Rebate Program, our home energy assessment program, an online assessment program called My Energy Expert, our air source heat pump rebate program, EV charger program, and a demand response program, Connected Homes. And then the MLP solar rebate program as well is available. The next slide. And then what we changed in 2021 was we expanded the offerings under the Appliance Rebate Program. We added a battery storage rebate pilot program and started offering a weatherization incentive program, as well as started offering a cordless yard equipment rebate program that started this year as well. So I'll start off with the Appliance Rebate Program. This is a list of our current offerings, the rebate amounts. Most of these have been have been going on. Some of the rebate amounts did change a little bit. Actually, one of the things that Marty was talking about is a Sensibo HVAC controller. It's a basically it turns what considers a dumb, or there's no smart device to it. That includes heat pumps, window unit, ACs, other HVAC equipment, and it makes it so you're able to control the devices from your smartphone. We offer a rebate for those. And what we changed, next please, is what we added was induction cooktops. So it just has to be at least 24 inches in length, so in width, to get the stove one. And this is a replacement, can be a replacement, can be a new unit install. So if you are replacing an electric stove and you're converting into an induction stove, it's $100. If you have a gas stove and you're replacing it it's $500. And if you're doing a new construction, and that includes renovations as well, that's a $500 incentive. For those customers who are not wanting to flip over to the inductions, the full-on purchase the big stove, but they want to try out what induction is, we're offering a portable induction cooktop. So this could be a single or a double cooktop unit. And those are typically what I was seeing price-wise, a little more around $100, $150 or so. So what we're covering is up to 50% of the cost, and that's up to $75 per unit. And the heat pump water heater, we were offering a rebate prior, but we had to have a Wi-Fi component in it. We realized there's a lot more water heaters that will qualify and be available and what our customers then wanted. So we updated the program this year to expand. There's the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance qualified products list. They vetted and went through a list of manufacturers of heat pump water heaters. It's actually the same list that Efficiency Vermont is using. And we have 2 tiers of rebates, $250 or $500 based on that list. And there's a link to that list through our website. And next. So we had the Heat Smart Belmont program that ran in 2019 into 2020. And we realized how successful that was in terms of being able to market and educate customers and residents about heat pumps. So we worked with a technical consultant and brought them on board to start the Clean Comfort program. It's about energy management. They act as there is a dedicated heat pump specialist that acts as a technical consultant. We do require consultation as part of the program, the rebate program now. So anyone at least talks to them, even if you have made your decision and you're comfortable with your choice, we still just require that you go through the program. But this heat pump specialist is available for you to talk to at any point and for as long as you want, for multiple contact sessions if you'd like. So if you haven't a foggiest idea of where to start, set up a meeting, which can be done by either calling them. They are really busy, so we do highly suggest setting up an appointment through the calendar, and there's a link through our website as well to do so. And that's a half hour, and that can start you off on the rights list. We do have a participating contractors list. It's a list that's started. It's about a dozen contractors now, and that doesn't include a contractor that's not on the list. You can go with, just that the contractors that are on the list have gone through a vetting process to make sure that they are up to date on their the manufacturer's trainings, checking off insurance, as well as just some light insurance things, just to make sure those boxes are checked, as well as looking at their customer satisfaction. So they do have check a couple of actual customer references at the same time. And that list is kept up to date. They review it. Contractors are in touch with our heat pump specialists and with us in terms of any questions throughout the process. I have had customers go through this, had just one consultation, go through the process, and they said it's great. I had a customer who had an issue after her installation in which she noticed her bill had increased way more than she thought. And through, she contacted myself, she contacted Abode, and she contacted the installer. And between a four-way party, we were able to resolve the issue. And the customer was satisfied throughout the entire process, was just alert that the situation had happened, but was very satisfied that with everything that how we handled it and how everything was resolved. So we're keeping an eye on that customer as well to make sure that things go smoothly coming into the cooling season, excuse me. Specifically with the rebates, that's actually the next slide, because I'm sure you're interested as to how much we're offering. Yes, so what the heat pump program does is, as it talks about, is encouraging the promotion of electrification. It is a more efficient way of cooling than window AC units. So if you do have those in place and you decide to install your heat pumps to take off your heating system, this way you do not have to take and remove those window units. As I know, it can be annoying. So they do have to meet NEEP, which is the Northeast Energy Partnership's cold climate air source heat pump, just to verify that they can work in cold temperatures. Those rebates start at $650, go up to $2,000. If you are doing a displacement, excuse me, removing your fossil fuel system like Marty did, you have the potential to add more incentive to that rebate. Next, please. So we started this program, the Cordless Yard Equipment Program, this year. It is open to all customers. Just as general state, applications must get tied to a current residential or commercial account. So this is available for commercial customers as well. Rebate can't be more than 50% of the total cost of the product. And we are limiting it right now to one measure. And what that means is one thing, one single leaf blower or a single pressure washer per account. And per year, we are limiting it right now to at least 500, capping it at $500. As there are a lot of expensive things on here, so we just want to see where this goes as things progress. So this is also, we're stepping into this program. Another MLP started a program last year. So we're all kind of looking at this and seeing where this goes. So we're kind of taking it step by step. So any feedback, we'd like to hear that about this program, about any program as well. Definitely feel free to reach out about that.
Hey Ben, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes,
So you
Steve.
have push lawnmower on here? And
Yes.
That is sort of energy efficiency. Is that the idea to, what's the idea behind the push lawnmower?
So a push lawnmower it means it's a battery powered push lawnmower. So it's the ones that you still have to push yourself and move it, but it's powered by a battery instead of like it's not the corded electric that you plug in and be able to move across, and it's not a gas engine. So, but this goes more towards the reason behind this rebate program is more towards the reduction of general emissions in town, and Belmont's Light part towards stepping towards reducing general emissions for the town. So next slide, please. So we started the weatherization rebate that for customers who want to make improvements based on the home energy assessment that they have completed. And this is anything that includes air sealing, attic insulation, wall insulation. The only requirements that we have is that they must have a recent home energy assessments within the past 3 years, and it must be done by a licensed contractor. It does cover up to 75% of the cost of the work, currently capped at $500. There are 2 categories, air sealing and insulation. Now, as a lot of customers, it's not covered here and it's not covered on the website, but I'd like to start addressing this. A lot of our customers are covered with Mass Save as they have gas heating. This would count towards the cost of the work out of pocket. This wouldn't be work that you already have covered under the Mass Save program. This is additional work that you find that you need to be doing, or is the price of the cost is not being covered under the Mass Save program? This goes towards starting to help out customers with propane, electric, and oil-based heating that haven't been able to access weatherization rebates before. So this is because they have Belmont Light as their source for programming. So this is hopefully a first step in figuring and working together with our customers towards achieving more insulation in homes. So, next slide, please. EV Charger Rebate is one that we've had around for a while. It's $250 per charger. There is a limit of 2 chargers per service address. It must be level 2 and it has to be Wi-Fi enabled to receive the rebate. The list here is a list of currently eligible models that I am aware of. If you do have another model that would qualify as long as it meets level 2 and is Wi-Fi enabled, it would qualify. So this list is not complete. It is far from that. So this is only just the list that I am aware of. Next slide, please. Yep. So Connected Homes is our residential demand response program. You might have heard in previous presentations that I've given or other, my colleague Aiden has given the Peak Rewards program. We currently offer these manufacturers in the program through battery, heat pump, water heaters, HVAC controls, thermostats, and level 2 chargers. And so currently it's expanded. So we're calling the program 12 months out of the year. We give these monthly incentives. They are credited to the bill quarterly. So you'll receive 3 credits on your bill based on the previous month. The devices are automatically controlled through the program. You can have the choice to opt out. If you do, though, opt out of any of the events, you are not qualified for the rebate for that. But you definitely have the choice to opt out. So those are the terms. Any more questions or details, I can gladly go into and describe that if you call. So next slide, please. The battery storage rebate is a pilot program we're running for this year, just to see what we can do. It's $500 per system that's being installed. Doesn't matter the size. It is just based on system per address. It does install at a residential address, and it can be installed with or without solar. If the solar is already installed and you're adding a supplementary battery system, that would qualify. The standard interconnection application process must be followed, and there is limited funding for this year. So, okay, next slide, please. We are actually getting to the end of this program, which I did not think would ever happen because this has been going on for about 2 years now. The program does end June 30th for the solar rebate program. We started off with a pledge of $100,000, which would be a total pledge of $200,000. Because of the success of this, we've extended it, and the total pledge amount is $570,000 for our customers. The exact timeline for when applications do have to be in for the rebate program is still to be announced. We're working on that. We're waiting on those details. But please watch our website and social media for those exact dates. So as a total though, just that we have 51 systems installed through this program, which is very successful for us. And overall, I mean, this contributed, but we are nearing almost 400 systems installed in Belmont. We're closing in on that, so it's very successful. And next one, please. Or is that it? Oh, no, that's it. So.
So I think most of the questions were answered, but there's a couple here. Has Belmont Light considered a battery-powered snowblower?
Yes, we have talked about that. We've had discussions with other municipal light plants. We're all still very, we're all waiting, and we're all talking to each other to figure out what that means and what that is. So right now we're still sticking to yard equipment before we actually dive into what we're terming winter equipment. So that would be snow blowers, snow throwers, things like that. So we're still, that we are considering it, but to be announced.
Question on the time window for rebates. We had someone who converted from gas to induction June 2020. Are they eligible?
No, since it was a new program, the new program would have to be after January 1st. Typical timeline we do allow is 6 months from the date of installation or date of purchase to apply for a rebate program.
There's a question that for renters, a landlord is older and had some trouble accessing the information, is not internet savvy. Are there any plans to do some mailers or door-to-door campaigns? A lot of people who aren't on the internet may not know.
Yeah, so we are going to probably do a mailer soon, but door-to-door campaign at this time, we're still probably be no during the current pandemic situation. Even with vaccination still coming up, it's probably would be out. But we're looking at sending out a mailer like we did into Bill. We sent one out in Bill's last year. And I should say that that's actually a good question to say this on. If a landlord or homeowner would like to do something to the house, they are very much eligible for the rebates. That if a landlord or homeowner installs something for their tenant's unit, they should apply using that account as the service address using that account number, but make sure that they state that they are a landlord. There is a determination of that. There's a field that determines that on all of our forms, on both online and paper. And if there's any questions or anything, just feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to talk it through. Because we definitely want landlords to actually, and homeowners, generally speaking, to look at these technologies and look at these rebate programs and be able to access them.
And I just wanted to add on the paper materials, written materials. You know, obviously this has been a strange year, the past year since March 2020. We typically during a year attend as many in-person events, host as many in-person events as we can, and we'll disperse paper material then. We also have a big board in our lobby that has every single one of our programs has information on them there. Our lobby has been closed to the public since the beginning of the pandemic as well. So I mean, coming out of you know, as the world starts to get back to quote unquote normal, you know, we'll be looking to resume those things, but right now they're just not possible.
Ben, it's Brian Copperell. I just wanted to give a plug for battery-powered snowblowers. And we've got a Toro one this year, and I was just very impressed. We have about a 100-foot-long driveway, and it really just tore it right up. And I just commend it to everyone to consider it as an alternative. I know this wasn't a big snow year, but I think it was plenty sufficient. And I also incredibly easy to use, and the battery, you know, lasted beautifully. So I would encourage Belmont Light to consider that, and very different snow load compared to Concord and Western municipal light plants who may not have the same conditions as us. But anyway, onward.
Quick question: are there different rates for nighttime, daytime use of electricity?
At this time, no, but currently Belmont Light is working with the LBAC, the Light Board Advisory Committee, and the Light Board investigating a possible pilot. We're hoping to get that off within the next year or two. We're currently in the investigation stage as to see what that would be set. But currently, no, there is no difference in nighttime or daytime rates.
Yeah, thank you.
Question on the heat pump for the water heaters. Are we required to meet with a vendor for that? And do you have preferred vendors? Do we have to meet with the consultant, I guess, prior to the water heater heat pump? And do you have preferred vendors?
So for the water heater heat pump, not at this time. We don't have a consultation for that, and we don't have any preferred service providers in terms of any contractor, solar, for installers, electricians, even with the heat pumps. The contractors that are on the list are not anyone's that we've vetted. They've just gone through the process with a BODE in meeting those standards. We can supply the list at what those standards they are meeting via our website. The participating contractors list is through our website. We'll make sure it's available there a little more boldly. I believe it's kind of hidden right now. So I'll take that as a note for myself to make sure I update that. And I would stress that if a contractor is not on that list and you feel more comfortable going with your preferred HVAC contractor, feel free to do so. You just do have to, what does have to happen is the proposal just has to get reviewed by a BODE before the heat pumps are installed. So.
Yeah, and I could just add something about the heat pump hot water heater contractor. So really any plumber can install it. It's you know, the plumbing is no different than a regular old water heater. I mean, the fact that it has a heat pump on it is that comes from the manufacturer, and really just needs an electrician to hook up the right service. So it's it's not especially complicated. So any plumber / electrician combo that you trust will be just fine.
Marty, how long is the run from the heat pump water heater to the sink?
Yeah, in our case, it's, let's see, it has to go up to the utility sink. So, all told, it's probably, I don't know, 6 feet or something. And it's got a little water pump down on the floor there, because the drainage comes out at the bottom of the unit. And so it has to be pumped up to the utility sink in our case. But, if you happen to have a floor drain in your basement, then it'd be pretty trivial just to like dump it into that. But even that, the little ancillary water pump is, tiny amount of electricity, and the plumber said that thing is bulletproof, will just keep running forever. So.
I think Daryl made an important point in the chat there, that whereas installing a heat pump hot water heater, any standard plumber electrician, you should be set. For heat pumps, you do want to have the sense that there are HVAC installers out there who don't know much about heat pumps or have very outdated ideas about them. So you do want to have the sense that you're dealing with an installer for those who knows heat pumps and has experience with heat pumps, at the full home heating level versus, as Marty said, with the heat pump hot water heater, where it's already kind of been taken care of by the manufacturer, making sure that it fits and is right.
Ben?
Yes.
Ben?
Phil?
I was at I think it was the last light board meeting. I thought I heard Craig say that the time of use pilot was slated to start sometime this summer. Has that changed?
It was anticipated, but because of timing, it hasn't been decided as to when that's going to be. It's still up in the air. So I'm sure it'll be discussed at the next LBAC and light board meetings this coming month.
Okay, thank you.
As an LBAC member, I think the idea was to at least get it going sometime later this year. I mean, whether that's feasible or not, but initially we thought we'd get it going, Ben, right? By the cooling season. That doesn't look likely, but later in the year, I think is a possibility.
Yeah, I think so. I just don't want to fully commit to a timetable yet.
Great. I think, let's see. I believe Adrienne had to drop off with a crying child. So a few things that were posted in the chat, just as Adrienne posted, if you have general questions about electrification, you can contact the Energy Committee through our website at belmontclimateaction.org, and we can either answer or point you in the right direction. And Aiden also posted for Belmont Light rebate and other questions specifically, you can find from the Belmont Light website at belmontlight.com/energy solution. Tonight's event is the recording of it. It's also going to be posted on our webpage if people want to look at that at some point. But if there aren't any further questions right now, thanks to people with the electric technologies, thanks to Ben for telling us all the things that Belmont Light is up to. Thanks for all the great questions. There's one question: do you envision wooden mills being installed within Belmont? I don't know. Is that on Belmont Light's to-do list?
It is. It's not on our immediate to-do list. It is possible, I guess. Aiden, if you want to take that one.
Sure. I think our distributed generation policy is kind of open-ended to windmills. I think it's more of a space issue and the feasibility issue. of whether it actually work in Belmont. But we do source from wind power in different areas around New England. But for right now, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, Aiden's right. The distributed generation program, the application for interconnection does include the possibility for wind power. So if you want to try to install it, or anyone wants to try to install it, that is a possibility. As terms of we just look at the power side to make sure that's installed correctly. But it's up to the town itself to regulate whether that's feasible. I think would be the proper answer. The other way I'd look at, is if you're looking at, if you can't install a wind, but you're looking to go for wind power to fully cover that remaining percentage of our power supply that is not, you'd like 100%. The option is for our Green Choice program that I didn't go into detail on. That's an omission on my part. But that option is available to purchase, and those are renewable energy credits that we purchase based on customers' contributions. And there's an estimate on our website as to what the purchase. You select the amount of money that you'd like to have done, and there's an estimate as to what kilowatt hour coverage you would be doing on a per month basis. It's just an extra fee, extra charge on your light bill per month. And those are class 1 wind recs.
And Ben, another point, I looked into this a couple of years ago. There's a minimum wind speed that's required. If the average wind speed is less than 7 miles per hour, it doesn't make much economic sense. And the other thing is if you were to put a wind turbine on top of your house, which is something that I actually considered a couple of years ago, that would have to go through the planning board, a full site plan review, because that would affect the viewscape of the abutters. So it's a possibility. You know, I think the Energy Committee and Sustainable Belmont and Belmont Light are just have an open mind for any kind of renewable ideas. Another one would be maybe you could stick a turbine in some body of water, running body of water, or you name it. But if you have any ideas, I'm sure Belmont Light would like to hear them.
Did we have anything else on our agenda, Marty?
No, I think that's it. So yeah, but like James said, if anything comes up, you know, we're available through Belmont Climate Action and, you know, folks at Belmont Light and the advisors on heat pumps. So there's many resources to help out, and we're all willing to do what we can to help people feel comfortable with this stuff.
Great. Well, thanks to everybody for your interest tonight and getting the town on the path to further electrification. And those of us who are already moving down that path are enjoying it. So I'd like to have as many as join us as possible.